morning, Adesua.
Good morning, Dr. Bati.
Good morning. And good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. Love your tie this morning.
Thank you. Okay, let's do it again this morning. Good morning out there. You're watching the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati.
I am Adesua Moran.
And I'm Rufai Senior. We've got a great show lined up for you for over the next 3 hours. So sit back, relax, and let's kick-start your day because the morning show begins right now.
Well, it's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Ahead of this Saturday's governorship election in Edo State, South Nigeria, some political and religious leaders yesterday arrived in Benin City, the state capital, and were at Government House to pay a visit to Governor Godwin Obaseki and his deputy, Philip Shuaibu. The visitors included a former military head of state and chairman of the National Peace Committee, retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar, and Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, His Lordship Matthew Hassan Kuka. Arise correspondent Egosa Igumbo, who is covering the election, reported that the leaders are in the state to oversee the signing of a peace accord between the major contestants going into this weekend's polls. In the meantime, as part of effort to help Edo State electorate make an informed decision in next Saturday's governorship election, Arise News Channel, in collaboration with its sister outfit This Day newspapers, will tomorrow host a conversation with the two leading candidates, Governor Godwin Obaseki of the People's Democratic Party and Osage Izeyamo of the All Progressives Congress. Gentlemen, it's become a norm to see candidates going into the election sign peace accord, but more often than not, we have seen that that has not stopped election violence. That's violence on the day of election. So has this become just formality?
I mean, Dr. Oti, I think you did ask a question about how binding, those accords were. And they said it's not binding. It's just something done in goodwill. So, but I don't think it's just formality. I think it's a commitment among both parties, between both people, to be able to come together to ensure peace. Because really, when you look at it, you can't govern a peaceless state. It's not possible. You can't live in an atmosphere of rancor and strife and war. It's not possible. So we need those accords. We need people to be able to come together. And even before those accords, we need people to have a genuine commitment towards peace. Because the people you are governing, you need peace to be able to govern them. You need to be able to bring them together under one umbrella body. Okay. So it might not be binding. There might not be repercussions if you violate that accord. But if you have a moral compass, you'll keep to it. And from the body language, it looks as though to me that since the Oba of Benin spoke to both candidates, I think they've done a fair job. I wouldn't say they've done a 100% job as regards keeping to it. I think they've done a fair job. I think when I watch their debate, and I'm going to also be very excited to watch their charts on Arise News Channel, I think they maintained a level of civility that was even different to the heightened rhetoric we had seen prior to this time. Someone like the governor, Godwin Obaseki, kept on calling Ezeyam my brother. Every time he answered the question, called Ezeyam my brother. And you can see how both of them came together in the end of that debate. So it's been fair thus far for me.
The true test of it is what happens on election day and after election, and how the various parties involved react to the outcome of the election. But what I think is important in the Edo State case is that we now have on the ground the National Peace Committee, led by General Abdulsalami Abubakar, going through the motions of ensuring that that process was symbolic, moralistic, good optics, signing of a peace accord is done. Also in this case, the National Peace Committee has been doing this since the 2015 general elections, and that body has been very consistent, and General Abdulsalami Abubakar and Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka have continued to show commitment to provide the necessary leadership in that direction. And the symbolism of it is that the gladiators, the political actors in Edo State, seeing this combination of leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, statesmen, civil society organizations coming to Edo State just a few days before the election and reminding them, along with the Independent National Electoral Commission, that peace is very important. I am sure that that will go a long way in reminding them and further strengthening the hands of the Oba of Benin, who had also made this appeal. The second point of it is that INEC is effectively on the ground now, and the INEC chairman has been quoted as saying that the environment the atmosphere in Edo State is charged. But he too is reassuring everybody that one, INEC is prepared, that two, INEC will maintain a position of complete neutrality in the conduct of the elections, and that in any case, all parties involved will not be allowed to engage in any act of impunity. That, of course, he can ensure in line with, in collaboration with these security agencies. And it's also saying that the facial image technology that was used for biometric accreditation in Nasarawa State would not now be used in Edo State, where you have about 2,627 polling booths in 192 wards. And I think that's a very sensible approach to take to exercise caution. Because when they conducted the election on August 8 in Nasarawa State, INEC was just dealing with about 44 polling booths. But now we're talking about 2,627 polling booths. So it makes sense to say we are not adopting this technology that we have not yet tested. However, all the political actors in Edo State should be reminded of what happened yesterday when the U.S. Secretary of State announced visa ban for certain persons who are taking part in the Bayelsa elections, and also persons who are going to participate in these Ondo and Edo forthcoming elections, and to say that these are persons who have compromised democratic principles and that the United States frowns upon that. Now, that in itself is a very useful gesture. It's some kind of cautionary tale coming just a few days to the Edo election. Although the names are not disclosed, but some of the persons who are involved in this electoral in Edo State were told are on that list, you know, and that's a name and shame list. Although, you know, every country has a right, of course, to take its own consular decisions. But I think that that was a very good move by the U.S. government as a way of also further restraining the political actors in Edo State. The important thing is to give peace a chance.
And the conversation that we're having with this, the Arise News channel and this they're having with the major contestants in these elections, I find it very important that, once again, the Edo people have a chance to listen to what they have to offer, because what we have seen on the campaign grounds, the campaign rallies have really been, you know, brickbats, you know, it's all about individuals. Nobody's really talking about policies and what they have for the people. So it's an opportunity for the people. It's also an opportunity for the candidates to sell themselves. Dr. Bate, how important is this conversation days before the election?
The campaigns will end effectively on September 17. So the Arise News channel, this day, dialogue with the main political actors is still within that time frame. So it offers them, the two of them, the opportunity, as you said, to articulate their plans for the Edo people. There are two major policy positions here. On the Godwin Obaseki side, you have what you call Make Edo Great Again, Mega. Which is a message about continuity. And I hope that, you know, he will have the opportunity to tell us how he intends to go about that, how he intends to make Edo State great again, and that he will also give a proper account of, in terms of the projects that he has done, the Azura Edo project, the Gelegele port, the investments in oil and gas, and then some of the controversial issues, the closure of the College of Education in Ikiadolo, the closure of the College of Nursing, you know, all of that. I'm sure there are issues that will come out. And then on the other side, on the Ize-Iyamu side, Ize-Iyamu is proposing a simple agenda, SIMPLA. And in all of that, you have job creation, you have you know, education, you have productivity, you have, you know, quite a basket of issues, and no candidate should go into the election without having an opportunity to at least explain in a sober, intellectual, you know, organized environment what he or she intends to do.
All right. Well, that's all on the news headlines. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have the trio of Rochas Ojiri, Michael Wilson, and Aaron Akarijala to give us updates on Africa, global business, and COVID-19. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Arise channel on wonderful morning like this. Our dependable Rotus Adira is here to give us Africa Business Update. Rotus, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much, Rufai. Good morning to you. Good morning, Doctor, and good morning, Adesoa. We've discussed this technology now for 3 days in a row, according, based on what we're getting from the news. So by the way, actually, before I get into that, we're expecting at 8:30 a.m. sharp, about 14 minutes or so from now, inflation figures for August from the Bureau of Statistics. So we'll be looking out for that. But the topic of the day, of course, is from the Securities and Exchange Commission. They sent out a tweet yesterday saying that they're going to be, it's basically put out a statement on digital assets, their classification and their treatment. So they've essentially made an about face on cryptocurrencies. That's essentially what they were talking about. If you look at a summary here, basically they're saying that they're going to recognize cryptocurrency assets as securities, and they refer to them as alternative investments. So basically registration of the assets are now required, and this is per Section 13 of the Investment and Securities Act of 2007, which confers the powers of regulation on the SEC to regulate all investment activity within Nigeria. The whole point of this is to, of course, their mandate for the SEC is to maintain the integrity of the capital markets and also, crucially, to protect the funds of investors. Now, they're saying that if an issuer of a cryptocurrency in Nigeria does not want to be under the jurisdiction of the SEC, they must prove otherwise. They must prove that the cryptocurrency they are issuing is not a security. And so what's going to happen is that the SEC is going to review the proof that they put forward. If the proof doesn't meet the standards, then they have to be regulated. Now, cryptos are already being traded in Nigeria. For those that have already issued cryptocurrencies before this statement from the SEC, that they will have 3 months basically to register. And this covers all digital assets within Nigeria. Now, why is the SEC doing this? I talked about them protecting investors' funds. Yesterday, this is the rapper T.I. He's a U.S. rapper. He was charged for fraud by the SEC in America. He basically went on his Twitter account and told his followers to go and invest in an ICO. That's an initial coin offering. And by the way, the ICOs are going to be regulated as well by the SEC in Nigeria. He claimed to have co-ownership of the crypto funds. That was not the case. It turned out to be fraudulent. He ended up paying a $75,000 fee. That's almost 30 million naira. And then that was basically it. So this is what the SEC in Nigeria wants to protect investors from. But the market is quite huge, and it's really popular in Nigeria. If we take a look at Google search trends for Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies for Africa, you'll see that Nigeria far outpaces South Africa, Ghana with respect to our region, what the top search. And then if you look at this, I've mentioned this, we've showed this graphic before, Reuters did a survey where they were talking to traders here in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa with respect to them using Bitcoin to pay their suppliers overseas in order for them to bring their inventory here to sell. So you can see that crypto transfers under 10,000, up 55% to $360 million in June. The volume has also increased. Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya led transactions, nearly $56 million worth of crypto transfers in Nigeria alone in June, and the transaction volume has gone up as well. If you look at the market cap of, this is a large market. This is just the top 10 cryptocurrencies in the world. You can look at it. Bitcoin, of course, is the bulk of everything. Bitcoin is over 198 billion. Price there is $10,000 per coin. Now, you can look further down. There's Ethereum, there's Tether, there's XRP, which is Ripple, Polkadot, Bitcoin Cash, Chainlink, Binance. I mean, there's so many. In total, there's about 5,000, almost 6,000 different cryptocurrencies. The entire market cap is, as of April, it was a 220 billion market cap. That was as of April. As of this point, it's probably over 250. So it's pretty large. The key thing here is the volatility. If we take a look at this next chart, if you see that red circle, this is Bitcoin's price over the last 5 years. That peak that I've circled in red was where it touched almost $19,000 in December of 2017. You can now see the arrow coming down. By a few months later, by about August or so of 2019, it had, or rather, excuse me, July, it had dropped to under $3,000. So it is incredibly volatile. So these are the kind of things that the SEC is wanting to look at in order to regulate, because there are people who are going to speculate on it, cryptocurrencies as an asset. There are other people that want to use it to facilitate payments. So this is essentially what the SEC is looking at and what they're going to try to regulate. Again, the market is so large, so the SEC in Nigeria is focusing on issuers that will be issuing these coins within Nigeria that will come under their jurisdiction.
Well, Rotus, well, it looks like a good development, considering the fact that the cryptocurrency market in Nigeria is rated as number 3 in the world. And we have some of our people involved in these businesses who have even created their own coins and have also gotten involved in mining. But the question I ask is, what has changed? In 2017 and in 2018, both the Securities and Exchange Commission and the CBN of Nigeria in fact condemned cryptocurrencies and warned Nigerians not to get involved in this very highly risky business, which may be no better than a fraudulent pyramid scheme. And the CBN, in fact, reiterated its position and said, look, a crypto coin is not a legal tender, and therefore it is illegal. So what is the CBN saying now? We have heard from SEC. And then the statement by SEC doesn't go far enough. What exactly are the rules that we're talking about? Who are the community stakeholders that are negotiating these rules? And, you know, investors need to know, because the recent story of, you cited a U.S. example of fraud, but you remember Woodbury and Hush Puppy? You know, it was also about cryptocurrencies and how they were using that to do money laundering. Yes. So we need, you know, to be protected. That is, persons who want to use crypto coins as financial security. And then quickly on inflation. I know you will have left before we get the figures. What are you expecting? Because I think only last week CBN was saying by December, inflation is in fact likely to maintain an upward trajectory and go as high as 14%. So what should we expect now from 12.82% in July? And what can we do to make sure that this crisis of inflation does not cripple everybody? Because if you look at food inflation alone, a bag of rice now is more than people's minimum wage. Yes. Minimum wage is 30,000. Yes. Bag of rice is 35,000 naira. So how do people survive under that kind of, galloping inflation?
Yeah, I mean, it's expected to increase. So you're correct. 12.82% was what we recorded in July. You could see a 10 basis point increase to probably 12.9. Some say it might cross 13%. Remember, fuel PMS was increased this month. So again, we haven't even seen that increase yet. We won't see this until next month when the inflation for this month is recorded. So the president, through Garba Shehu, put out a press release. He's worried about what's going on. We had that 25% loss of output in Kebbi of rice. So you can imagine you already quoting 30,000 bag for rice now. With what's happened in Kebbi, supply has reduced. To fight this, you have to increase supply somehow. The president has ordered a strategic release of grains, but I mean, as supply continues to be constrained, prices will go up because demand continues to be high. But we're looking at maybe 12.9% for August. Maybe we could cross 13, but it is going to increase. And the central bank, their estimates, it could be conservative, because I think Bismarck Rwani's financial derivatives, they see inflation going higher than, I believe, 14% for the year. So it could continue to climb up when you factor in PMS and how that translates to transport costs and everything else. For the SEC, the quick turnaround with regards to what you mentioned, Doctor, from 2017 and also the CBN, is the increase in transactions. What I just showed you from Reuters there, volumes have been going up because of, perhaps it's the investment environment. Savings account rates are down to what, 1%. There's dollar illiquidity, so folks that are traders have to use Bitcoin to make payments. So the SEC is saying, look, we might as well try to regulate this thing. We are not look the other way to try and protect investors, because the reality is more and more people continue to use Bitcoin and invest in it, so they have to do something.
Okay, thank you very much, Rotus Ojuri. And for more business updates on the global perspective, Michael Wilson joins us from London. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'll take you to, good morning, everybody. To take you to Asia Pacific first, and mostly higher, a huge amount of data out of China this morning, pointing to a weak domestic demand. Imports slid 2.1%. Retail sales for China as well, not really been the same since the country came out of lockdown. Reports of the likes of Daimler and Apple also saying that they've seen some decent rebounds there. But retail sales actually declined 1.1%, showing, as far as I'm concerned, that the Chinese consumer is taking his and her time to come out of hibernation, basically. We saw some positive numbers, but welcome move into positive territory, but nothing really to write home about. Online sales were up very, very slightly. Manufacturing has managed to recover much more quickly in China. PMI's industrial production rose 4.8% in July, slightly below expectations, and came in at 5.6% in August, much better than expected. So there's a kind of two-tier recovery taking place in China. In Japan, just to confirm then, that Yoshihide Suga was appointed Prime Minister. They reckon there will have to be an election there. Markets are saying it's probably going to be now October. That's the latest market guess. Let's go to the United States and the continuing saga of TikTok. And the Trump administration is going to review the technical partnership that's between Oracle and TikTok. This is short of a full sale. The deadline was originally September the 20th. Now the deadline is apparently today. And as far as money going to the US Treasury about this, Steve Mnuchin said that the Committee on Foreign Investment would review the agreements to see how data is protected. This is a really, really difficult thing that they've got to do. They've got to somehow, as we talked about yesterday, Doctor, didn't we? They've got to protect the data of American citizens, but they also need to allow China to retain key intellectual property rights, whatever that means. I suspect what it means is the actual machinery will have to stay within China's grasp, as it were. Now, latest economic data from here. It's a bit of a sideshow. I'll come on to it in a second, but a bit of a sideshow compared to the events taking place between politicians in Brussels and Westminster, these controversial attempts to get this internal market bill passed. The Conservative MPs in Westminster carried by 77 votes, but that's just the House of Commons. So the House of Lords, and I expect probably it'll have a very rough ride through that. Staying with the UK, employment. Now, the big takeaway from this is the number of young people out of work rose 156,000 in the 3 months to July. And the Office of National Statistics said those aged between 16 and 24 saw the biggest drop in employment compared to other age groups. Overall, the employment rate here is 4.1%. And those numbers do not include those who have yet to return to work from furloughs. Those are not classified as unemployed yet. That's a very, very important statistic. The number of people actually seeking benefits rose by 73,000 over July. That's less than the 100,000 expected, but basically that unemployment rate remains at 4.1%. On the plus side, at least 2/3 of those staff who were furloughed, it looks, sorry about the complications of this, but you have to drill down to the figures to get the kind of picture. It's encouraging that they apparently are going back to work. So it looks as though the overwhelming bulk of the 3 million or so workers who went into furlough are now getting back to some sort of employment inactivity. However, what it doesn't do is to look at the remaining 2 million who may find that if the current social distancing guidelines continue, and I think most people expect they will not necessarily find jobs to go to. And we've already seen lots of losses, haven't we, from airlines and retail and the rest of it. And while companies like Amazon and Tesco are saying, look, we are going to have more people to cope with the increase in online business, it's not going to take that up. Here's another thing. You remember NVIDIA, we were talking about that one that bought ARM Holdings from SoftBank yesterday. Employees are going to get average windfalls of £176,000. But there is still a considerable amount of political opposition to this because we're not sure as to whether it will still remain headquartered in the UK. The boss of the boss of NVIDIA has said it will, but it's not legally, it's nothing down on paper, and that's the worry. And the feeling is that one as a country needs to keep some sort of high-tech giant to stop it falling hostage to other places. And also the UK and Japan, the US rather, and Japan are supposed to be allies. We'll see whether that actually happens. Very briefly, as far as commodities are concerned, OPEC Plus Monitoring Committee meets on Thursday, so no great move in the oil price until then. And the gold rally overnight, yes, but it's very, very narrow, trading in a very, very narrow range. I mean, nothing really to bet on, nothing for gold to get its teeth into, given the interest we're seeing in equities. And also, don't forget the Federal Open Markets Committee meeting on Wednesday. Okay, that's the global view.
All right, a great point you made there. But I understand the concerns as regards NVIDIA and, ARM and the deal, with SoftBank here, because just like Dyson, a lot of those big tech companies are moving out of the UK. Dyson has moved out. Dyson has gone to Singapore and the like. So the UK still wants to retain that stock of tech companies. But my great question will be, how will this, pull out? How will this even affect the workers? How will this affect, employment in the UK? And I also want to talk about the market bill. Looked good for them in the parliament yesterday. Looked good for Boris Johnson. But does Boris Johnson really have a moral compass going ahead with this?
Politicians and moral compasses? Are you joking? I mean, I'm sorry. I do my best with you every day, but you take me onto very difficult ground with that. I have no idea. All I can tell you is it'll struggle through the House of Lords. I can see the merit on both sides of the case. There is no such thing as international law. You think there is, there isn't. It's all about sovereignty. That's what this is about. And whether you actually believe in that or not, then you take your choice. But no, on politics, I have no idea. As far as NVIDIA is concerned, there is no statute on our books at the moment that has any kind of holding over this deal. It has to be about national security, and it would be very difficult, as one retired politician was saying to me yesterday, to raise a flag about that, given that Japan and the United States are our allies. So that would be a very, very different one to get forward. I think what one has to do is to place as many restrictions as possible, and I leave that to political experts to do, to make sure that headquarters remains in Cambridgeshire, and the employees are getting a sweetener for the deal. As I told you, they're getting about £176,000 each as a sweetener, more or less, depending on one's status in the company. But that's the average, which is not too bad. But I think absolutely basic to this is that you need to keep, if you're going into this future world, whatever it may be, you do need to keep a domestic tech giant so that you're not pushed around by other larger tech giants around the world. Very important that ARM stays in the UK.
All right, thank you so much for that. For update on COVID-19, Aaron, the Baron.
Ravai, good morning to you. Yes, and good morning to you. Adesua, the lady in red, and more importantly, good morning to you, Doctor.
Did you get that, Aaron?
I didn't get that. I would say
the man in red tie.
Okay, red tie. It almost flew over my head, literally. Good morning to you, Adesua. Okay, let's get straight into it. We'll start it off from here in Africa, and looking at the numbers at the moment, looking at the continent, you can actually see the 1,359,724. Now, the beautiful thing is this. According to statistics out there, let me just quickly point on this. I should have said this some days earlier. But according to statistics out there right now, they say 4 out of 5 countries in Africa have actually recovered from COVID-19. All right, the state of recovery actually states is with over 1.1 million cases and counting recovering from COVID-19. Without a doubt, the southern part of Africa still takes a chunk of the most infected region on the continent. At the moment, 32,795 deaths. But moving away from that, that's not my focus for today, because you actually see that a lot is actually happening in terms of COVID-19. And I must say to you that here in Africa, we spoke about the laboratories that will be chosen for genetic sequencing and monitoring of the mutation of the COVID-19 virus. And as it stands right about now, one particular center at the Redeemers University has been chosen, talking about the Center for Excellence for for genomics have actually been chosen for this particular one. And Professor Happy, we've spoken about it, Christian Happy, who actually runs that particular center, the Africa Center of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Diseases, ACG, is actually saying that this is a credence to the hard work they've been putting into ensuring that that lab is at the forefront of trying to get a vaccine for COVID-19. So they will be serving not just Nigeria alone, but the entire region. So a good one there. But moving away from that quickly, Dr. Onu yesterday was on Arise News yesterday evening, and he spoke about the fact that the federal government has instituted or inaugurated a particular committee, a ministerial committee, to look into COVID-19 herbal remedies and natural compounds. So we are trying to look inwards. Whether or not that will bear fruit and whether or not that will be viable is left to be seen. But moving away from that, let's actually cross over to the United Arab Emirates. As a matter of fact, right now, Sinopharm is one of the biggest companies in the race for a vaccine. As a matter of fact, Sinopharm, okay, first of all, let's say that China are claiming, based on this, China are claiming that by the end of November, before the end of November, they will have a vaccine. They have the most candidates for a vaccine at the moment. You can actually see the Fosun Pharma alongside Biotech and Pfizer. We've spoken about that. Then also the military university alongside Abogin and Volax. Not forgetting Sinopharm that we're talking about, CanSino Bio, Sinovac also amongst the several people. 9 of them are in the race in human trial at the moment. It stretches as much as 13 going to 14 candidates in general when you actually look at some of these things. And I look at it and I say to myself that if they say that they have a candidate or they will have a candidate before the end of November, then maybe we might actually believe them. Now, coming to the UAE, at the moment, the UAE have actually given emergency authorization to Sinopharm to get vaccines out and begin to vaccinate people. At the moment, they are trying to use the inactivated coronavirus vaccine. What it actually means is that they will take a coronavirus and actually mutate it and start vaccinating people. For now, they've been in phase 3 in the UAE. Over 30,000 people actually participated in that particular phase, and it is working. As a matter of fact, Sinopharm are not just working on one particular vaccine candidate, they are working on 2. The Wuhan Institute of Biological Products are working on one, and the Beijing Institute of Biological Products are working on the other, alongside the state-owned Sinopharm. So they have 2 candidates at the moment, and they are very positive about one. And the UAE has decided to go with this particular one with the Wuhan Institute of Biological Products, and are claiming that at the moment, very, very soon, they should start vaccinating people very soon. And they are trying to now order it in a scale of priority. So let's see how that goes. And although the WHO have not come out with a word about this, because when you start vaccinating people, although we know that CanSino Bio, alongside the military institute in China, had already started vaccinating some military men, whether it was voluntary or not was left to be seen. So let's see how things actually go. We're still talking about COVID-19 and vaccines. Now let's actually get into the vaccine race. Just a quick reminder on the vaccine race. Let's get into India. India at the moment are having a hard time in terms of COVID-19. Over 80,000 deaths have been recorded as of now, well over the number and the threshold. Almost 5 million cases are being recorded in India. India are growing at an exponential rate in terms of COVID-19, although they still claim that when you look at it, the case fatality ratio is very low. That means something seems to be working in their favor, but we'll still keep an eye on what is going on in India, while some countries are trying to lock down to prevent a second spike. India are not having any of that, and they're insisting that they will keep reopening their economies, and people will, they'll put some limited restriction, but they'll keep reopening their economies and trying to put things in perspective. Okay, before we go, the last thing we'll just actually talk about is just to refresh people on the race for a vaccine. We know AstraZeneca have begun again. They've resumed the trials of their phase 3 vaccine alongside then Pfizer and Biotech. We've spoken about that time and time again. Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and Sinovac.
Well, Aaron, sorry to interrupt you at this point. This morning when we had Rutu Sudiro with Africa Business Update, he had talked about the National Bureau of Statistics announcing the inflation figures for August 2020, and we have that now. Yeah. Headline inflation is at 13.22% in August 2020. up from 12.82% in July 2020. I take that again. Headline inflation has jumped from 12.82% in July to 13.22% in August 2020. Food inflation was 15.48% in July. Now it's jumped up to 16% in August. Core inflation in July was 10.10%. Now what we have for core inflation August 2020 is 10.52%. So what this means is, of course, that inflation is consistent with its upward trajectory. And this 13.2% will be the highest figure that we have recorded since March, which was the last time we had something a little over 13%. So the combined effect of COVID-19 and other economic challenges simply means that, life has become more expensive, and food in particular continues to become more expensive in the market. So will it be better in September, at the end of September? Well, we don't know yet. But Rotus Odiri, in his analysis this morning, was saying that, in fact, it could cross 13% further by the end of September.
And Aaron, you were just wrapping up on the vaccine race, but there are those who have said, despite all of this efforts we're saying, we might not be able to vaccinate everybody till 2021. Some are saying we might not even be able to get enough till 2024.
So that's the reality, without a doubt. Because when the vaccines actually come out, certainly it will be, there's already a priority scale. And before the general population will begin to get vaccines in their hands or begin to get that shot, it has to be in 2021, because they will start with those in the front line, those that are more vulnerable than the elderly, before they start thinking of the general populace. So that's how it's actually going to go. It's not just going to happen and production will happen and everyone gets a vaccine this year. That's not even a reality. The first is to get a vaccine out. Then rolling out the vaccine is another step entirely. Of course, they're trying to map it out, and that's why the talks from COVAX and the rest of them actually coming in terms of priority, with several countries actually trying to get up on the pecking order and in the ladder to get a vaccine. Certainly, some will be left behind, some will get later than others.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.